So the picture on the screen is a woman that I've been recently assessing, and hang on just one second here. Okay, there we go. Oops, I made it too big. I just wanted to get it bigger. Okay, so this woman has been a client of mine for about 1.5 years, and I've just done random readings for her here and there at the clinic. However, she phoned me up about a month ago and was insistent that she wanted to get a full reading with me. And I was reluctant to do it because I've actually given up my practice, but she was pretty convincing that that she wanted to get a scan. Now, of course, because of the situation with COVID, I had to base my scans off of previous readings. And so therefore, the information that you're seeing is information from the past 1.5 years. And in the information that I sent you her number values of the organs. And if you didn't get that, then just let me know at the end or send me an email and I can send you all the data to analyze. But I was trying to get that out to everybody before the class started today. But this is all the number values. And what I did was I highlighted in red the areas of extreme weakness, and then things in yellow that weren't as problematic, but again, just for me to sort of take a look at occasionally whenever I'm doing more scans for her and building up that portfolio. Prior to my session with her a few weeks back, I had her complete this intake form that I sent as well to everybody, that just had her answer some questions because of the fact I didn't know where this would go, and that's why I thought this would be a good example to talk about. Is I just wanted to get some questions down and open up that dialogue with her, just to sort of understand a bit more about her situation and how I can help her. So on the form, I just asked if she's been to a counselor before, and she indicated that she had been to a spiritual counselor. Asked her how she had been feeling lately. Okay. And every time I've seen her, she's always been feeling okay. Nothing out of the ordinary, sometimes just a little bit tired or fatigued, but nonetheless, she's been feeling okay for many years now. I asked her what was bringing her to me this time, and she had mentioned to me that she has tinnitus, and tinnitus is ringing in the ears, and it's very loud, and she's finding it's interfering with her day. So what I did was I looked at her ear organ just to see what the color value was, which I can show you here, that when we look at her ear, it is in that indigo color. And what I do is I match the organs that are of the same color frequency and see if that gives me any indication of the pattern of what's going on within her energy. But when I see it in that dark blue indigo color, then that relates to the possibility of fear, anxiety, worry. And of course, if we go into more the dynamics of the hang on just one second here. If we go into more dynamics of her aura picture, then that of course would give us even more ammunition in regards to what we're talking about. Okay, and then the tinnitus is constant, and I asked her, what does it make you feel good or bad? And of course it makes her feel bad. And I asked her if she's ready to stop the pattern from repeating itself, and she said, I'm working on it. And the reason why I ask people if they're ready to stop that, because I get a lot of people coming to me, and literally sometimes the first words out of their mouth is a dialogue about all their illnesses. And I had one woman even coming to me that brought in a portfolio of every diagnosis that she's had from any practitioner. It was literally a binder that was 1 inch thick. And to me, that's irrelevant, because when people start chattering about how sick they've been, then that indicates to me that this is the way that they introduce themselves. And one of my girlfriends, she had cancer, and I asked her to come in one of my classes to be my guinea pig. And I told her what time to show up at, and she just sort of came right into the room and literally introduced, hi everybody, I'm the woman who has cancer that you'll be analyzing. didn't even wait for me to introduce her. She just burst into the room and sort of broadcasted that she had cancer. And when people, to me, are bragging about their illness, and I'll say the word bragging because to me, in essence, that's what it's like, then they're owning their illness. And so I want to ask them, are you ready to stop that? And often I will tell people to stop talking about it with others. And of course, you know, when they're coming to me as a practitioner, then, you know, they're wanting to let me know what's been going on. But often before I even start engaging in a conversation with them, right away, they're already into all their problems. So that tells me that, you know, that obviously is top of their mind, but we are a society that puts part of our personality in regards to our symptoms. I have allergies, I have asthma, I have skin conditions, I have, you know, dietary issues. Everybody wants to own something. So I'm trying to tell people we want to own happiness. We want to own things that are positive, not I'm sick all the time, I'm unhealthy. So, you know, part of what I did go over with her is affirmations and other things so she could get out of that repeating consciousness of negativity. Okay, and I asked her if you could wave a magic wand, what positive changes would you make happy in your life? And she said, clear it. So, and again, I wasn't specifically asking about the tinnitus or her ear. It was just sort of, you know, in general, but of course that was her focal point. And what would it take to make you feel more content, happier, and more satisfied? And here she put more freedom. And I'm going to go into the story that she told me when we started talking, listing any good habits that she has to start her day, or habits that she has to start her day. She does meditation, which is awesome. And what is her biggest vulnerability? Doubt. And again, this has a lot to do with the indigo. And if we look at the colors in her brain, we can see here that she's got that indigo color in her brain. And when I see the indigo in the head, then again, those are the attributes of somebody who can, you know, bring in worry, fear, and doubt. And I will repeat some of the things I talk about in other email or in other videos, because not everybody here has joined my, you know, a previous video. But when I look at the colors of the brain, the biopulsar is assessing 8 brain parameters. So I always count how many colors are above the head. So if we look at this woman, she's got green, we see yellow, there's also this pink. Then we have the indigo color here, and we can see there's blue in the background, and as well there's a different shade of pink or reddish hue in here. And we'll go more into the colors of the brain, but nonetheless, green, yellow, pink, you know, purple, another muted color. That's at least 5 colors that we're seeing in the brain, and there could be more. When I flip the page again, then we can actually count how many colors are in the brain. That is indicating out of 8 possible frequencies that a person can house in the brain, she's got at least 5 or 6 different colors going on. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when my thoughts are all over the place, then it's really hard to focus on things correctly and in an optimal level. So in this case, I can see that her brain is cluttered. There's too many things going on. And in fact, I always note during a consultation if people keep asking more and more questions, because it's almost like, again, they're searching for things, and it's pretty hard to help support someone if they're all over the map. So I kept having to focus with her, saying, okay, this is what we're going to focus on. And I kept repeating the things that I wanted her to do, because she just kept wanting more and more and more. And that's indicating to me that unless she remembers the basic essentials of what I need her to do, it's going to be pretty hard for her to, you know, heal herself. So let's flip at her brain. So we can actually see here that the top few rows are the brain. So look at the yellow, or look at the orange in the cerebellum is different than the cerebrum, which is yellow. Then we have the forehead brain. Now the back brain and the cerebrum are the same color. Then we have the back brain in pink. We have the temporal brain in more like a violet color. Then we have the forehead in green, and we even have the pineal and pituitary gland in turquoise. So it's actually 7 different colors we're seeing out of 8 brain frequencies. That is somebody who's all over the map with their thoughts. That means they're having all these different thoughts, and these thoughts can be related to emotions. right? So obviously when we see the violet, the pink, and the indigo hue, that's indicating somebody who's very spiritual minded, but we've got a double yellow in there, which is somebody who's also very analytical, and she is an academic. So she's got a lot of degrees behind her, and this is one of her issues, is the fact that she wants to go back into a career, but she never completed her master's, and so therefore she's got different fields of study, but she hasn't quite completed them to move forward. Okay, just going over the list again, her overall health, and a lot of what she illustrated was right in the middle, meaning there wasn't, a lot where she was indicating extreme weaknesses or extreme activity, other than relationship with friends was a little bit low. Communication skills she found at an optimal level. However, again, what I found was her communications tend to revolve a lot around her. Now, of course, she's coming to me for a consultation, but again, I was just observing that there's a lot of communication in regards to what her needs are. What else? Everything else is pretty well in the mid-range. Spiritual, she's indicating that she feels that she's a little high on that. Now, physically, she wants to find out what it takes to heal. Mentally, she refers to trust. Emotionally, expression, and spiritually, listening. And this is before we started the consultation. So, getting information, and I have different forms that you receive with the Biopulsar. I have my 5-page client intake form, which is awesome because it goes through a lot of their dietary habits, a lot of hereditary things, and then plus symptoms that they have felt over the years. And the way I created this client intake form, it's actually going over the different systems, and then also a breakdown of the different aspects relating to the different chakras. It's probably the only detailed chakra intake form, because for anybody who looks at it, they would just see it as a client intake form, but I actually broke it down into the chakra segments. So this way you can see right away if somebody has checked off that they have a lot of problems in the, in the crown area, then right away that a lot of their issues are going to be related to the physical connection of the crown. Okay. And as well, I have a daily observation sheet, which I do ask a lot of questions on there. And even though I didn't have the form for her to fill out, I asked a lot of the questions that are on there just to, again, guide me as to some of her stress factors. And the daily observation form is awesome because it really does go into all the different dimensions of things that you'll be affected by, from, conditions at work, conditions at home, as well as other factors that may or may not be out of your control. So there's a lot of great information on that daily observation form that you could use in part with the consultation. And maybe I'll get her to fill it out, and then I can send it to you guys so you have more, again, just more evidence that supports the reading. So when I first started talking to her, what I did was I pulled up my information from the Biopulsar training manual on the ear organ. And one of the things I tell everyone is, trust me, I don't have everything memorized, okay, guys? I know sometimes I seem like I'm, the know-it-all, and I do know a lot, obviously, when it comes to the Biopulsar technology. However, the reason why this booklet exists is as a reference. And so I am not shy to open up my Biopulsar training manual and, go to the page that is to do with the client's issue. And this is something I also sent her because this became part of her homework. And I do actually have everything in text as well as it's in your manual. So I have 70 pages in the manual dedicated to body language. So when you buy the Biopulsar, or for those of you who have the Biopulsar, one of the files that I have is I have everything in the binder in text. So you can copy and paste it into an email and send it to a client. So that way they have the text and they can fill it out. So the reason why I did that is because, again, some of these questions, I pulled out the wrong page. Some of these questions pertain to their weak organ. So in this case with the client, her weakness being the ear with the tinnitus, then obviously, all this information that's on there is ammunition for me in regards to what I can talk to her about. This is how easy it is, okay? You don't have to know everything. I don't have everything memorized. I have what I call my sheets. Okay? So here, the ears, psychologically, it's our listening abilities and how we want to hear things, as well as one's ability to hear. So of course she didn't feel that she had any hearing problems, but it's how she wants to hear things as well as her ability to hear. So I asked about her relationship with her husband, and she right away initially said, my relationship with my husband is awesome. However, I don't always tell him how I'm feeling because he's got enough stress on his plate, because with COVID, his business has sort of, tanked a little. And so therefore, he's having to deal with the business component, and he is the main breadwinner of the family. She has been a stay-at-home mother for 15 years. And, now she's ready to go out into the workforce because she also wants to support, the income revenue coming in. However, for her to have dialogues with her husband were limited because she didn't want to add more stress to him. As well, she told me that he would get upset, and he did have some anger issues. So of course she didn't want to rock the boat by saying things that maybe, he wasn't open to hearing at this point. But because she was having this vision that she wanted to go forward with her career, this was a conversation that she needed to have with her husband, and she was sort of dropping some, some hints that this is what she wanted to do, but she hadn't really at that point come out and said, I'm really going to go back into the workforce. Okay. And her willingness to listen, because again, I could see that when I would tell her things that, she would just go on and on and on about things and not necessarily hear everything that I was trying to tell her. But I was paying a lot of attention to what she was saying, and I was writing notes as to the words that she would say. So for example, she talked about her son. And because her husband is a very strong analytical person, he was driving their child to overachieve. And she was feeling that this was the same thing that her parents did to her. And so therefore, she didn't want the husband to always belittle the son, in regards to, maybe the fact that he wasn't getting top grades. And during our conversation, she also mentioned to me that she was the last child born to into her family, and her mother and father wanted a boy because they had daughters. So she was the final daughter that was born. Now, because she was a girl, she felt that she was neglected somewhat and constantly being put down. Because of that fact, she wasn't the sex that they wanted her to be. So that became also a big issue. And because of the fact she was a woman, then of course, her family also wanted her to, make a career and then, be successful in the career. And then she ended up choosing to become a mother. And that was a decision her and her husband had made together, but she felt that it was more of a decision that was made based on her sex and not because she could hold her own better than her husband. It was just automatic that the husband should be the breadwinner and she stay home with her child. So she built up a lot of resentment over time, and this is what kept coming out in the conversation, was her resentment in regards to what her parents constantly told her, and also now because her son's 15, she feels that he's more self-reliant, that she can go back into the workforce, but because she's been the stay-at-home mother, it's been a delicate conversation. Even though the family now is struggling, she wants to go back to be a supporter of the family as well. Okay, and the words that she used actually a few times was her husband was very stern. So again, you can imagine, you know, somebody who has been a stay-at-home mother, and, you know, even though she felt that her relationship with her husband was, you know, a good relationship, I think she felt that she always had to stay in line, would be a good way to say that. She said her mother was very critical, and she was the third daughter, and constantly not good enough, and to connect with, you know, to connect with her sole purpose, she's been doing volunteer work, and her goal is to help empower other women, because she's been feeling that she's never been self-empowered, and so now she feels that because of her studies, she would be a good candidate to go into the field where she can actually help young women. Okay, so we talked a lot about how she could feel more self-empowered and, you know, own her energy, and also, you know, feel more heard, because again, when it comes to an organ, the reason why a physical symptom crops up is because on an energetic level, the issues have not been dealt with. So again, when people are not being felt heard, that's going to relate to obviously the ear organ. If she feels that she cannot discuss her truth because she is a woman and, you know, was in a family where maybe women were repressed more so, other than you know, on an academic level, then again, you can see how the ear organ would you know, end up having some problems. Okay, so what I was mentioning to her, the ear, you have to look at every organ, not just the ear, but you have to look at every organ in multiple ways. You have to look at it in the balanced way, where, you know, obviously the ear is about, you know, feeling that people are hearing you, also that you're being heard, and it also has to do with how you're hearing things. Now, if we see indigo in the ear, do you think that that she is perceiving things in an actual way or sometimes in a fantasy way? Okay, because indigo is the energy of fantasy, so she may be sometimes misconstruing some of the words that she's hearing in her own way, because one of the things that we tend to do is when we have a habit, we naturally have that inclination to go back to that reaction based on the habit we formed. So if she felt repressed by her parents and that they didn't want to hear her because, you know, she was, you know, a girl, and girls, you know, don't necessarily have the ability to, you know, express themselves as maybe sometimes sometimes is the case in some households, then again, you can imagine that she may feel that she has never been heard. So that way, when people aren't hearing her, then she's going to go back to that patterning. And one of the things as a counselor that's a good practice to do is repeat back to the client what you've heard. So I would repeat back to her what I understood her to be saying. So this way I'm empowering her to feel heard. Okay, so I would, you know, repeat back to her. So what you're saying is you felt as a child that your parents weren't hearing what your needs were. Is this correct? And then I would have her affirm that. So when it comes to, you know, understanding the client, this is one of the things that we have to understand. If I'm talking to you from my yellow energy and you're a green person or you're an indigo person in nature, the way you're going to perceive the information will be based through your color intelligence. And this is why when we go into chakra analysis, this is so important to understand, because, if we're communicating with somebody who is a natural indigo, then again, we can understand that that person is talking that indigo language, and so some of their concerns and, you know, some of their character is going to be connected to that. And when we look at her chakra values, where did I put that? When we look at her chakra values, we can see that her heart is, her brow chakra is her number one chakra in the last reading. And we can also see that her heart resonates at a very high frequency. But because her brow is at a very heightened level, then this tells me that she would be more into that indigo nature in her personality of worry, fear, doubt. So, and again, on the negative side, that energy could be one of imagination. Okay, and when she answered some of the questions, she had a lot of epiphanies. And this is also very important to have people understand that, you know, part of what you need them to do is analyze the questions and write answers down to them. So for example, you know, what do we not want to hear, or maybe what we've heard a lot of? And this could be broken down into two separate questions. I just ran out of space on the page, so I combined them into the same sentence. So what, you know, what does this person not want to hear? Well, you know, sometimes when you've constantly been told, you know, that you have nothing important to say, you know, maybe because you're a woman or a girl, then you may actually tend to start believing that you don't have anything important to say. And so therefore you might just talk and talk and talk and talk, but the importance level isn't that great because, again, you just want to talk because that's part of what you're trying to build up is your communication ability. But again, we have to look at it on both sides. So when it comes to the ear, how we can look at it is, are we hearing too much negativity, or are we blocking what we're hearing? Okay, so we can, like I said, we can analyze this in many different ways. So based on what she was saying, I was just writing notes as to how I interpreted it. So because her husband was controlling and stubborn, and you know, she's been trying to fight for her quality, which means she's trying to voice herself. But if you have somebody who is, you know, more dominant and saying, you know, this is what you need to be doing for the family, then again, it's a pattern that's developed in their relationship where she has been the caregiver for her son, and now she wants to break away from that. So that's going to be you know, possibly a little bit difficult for her if her husband is controlling and stubborn and wants her to continue to stay at home. But I think she felt that, you know, over time that this is something that her husband would support her with, because obviously when it comes to, you know, the family dynamics, you know, at this point, I think it was important that both of them would start bringing income into the family. Okay. And she also told me that she believed that her husband was superior to her 15 years ago. And that was one of the reasons why she made the decision to stay at home, because her husband's very confident and I guess expressed that he was the one that had the better business ideas, or he was the one that was better educated at that time to go out into the workforce, so it made more sense that she stayed home. And again, that could, you know, help create some of the resentment, you know, where if he felt that he was superior to her and she believed that. Okay. Now, she suffered from a couple car accidents, as well as from the car accidents she developed TMJ, and she also felt that the EMF was affecting her. Because she had ultra sensitivities, then she's very sensitive to EMFs. And this is another thing, that when people have tinnitus, that often that's an indicating factor that their ear organ is one of their super senses. So I actually asked her early on in the session if she felt that that her ears were a super sensing organ for her, and she validated that. And I also asked her if noises disrupted her, and she did. She felt that noise was very disruptive. So when I talk about some of the protocols that I recommended, I'll let you know what I do to people, or what I suggest to people who have developed super sensitivities. Even with myself, hearing is one of my super sensitivities, and I can actually hear the ringing in my ears, but it's not that great. But because I'm very super sensitive, I know I can hear the high frequency of things. But it's learning how to turn down that volume and, become acclimatized to, hearing everything. But even in the office, I kind of laugh because we have 2 floors in our office, and when the fan is going in the kitchen or the bathroom downstairs, I can actually hear it upstairs, and I'm quite the distance away, but I can still hear it nonetheless, and I can block it out. But if somebody leaves the fan on in the bathroom upstairs, I always have to get up and shut it off, because I find it very disruptive. And in my own office, I have to have music going to block out all the little sounds that are in my office. So these are some of the things that are easy enough to recommend to clients. Okay, so other questions. What is the person refusing to hear? Or are they refusing to hear things other than their own opinions? So we can take that again on both levels. What are they refusing to hear? What are they blocking out to hear? Okay. And are they listening to their own inner voice? And this was also an issue, because she's been repressing her inner voice, knowing that she's wanting to do these things, but constantly saying, I can't move forward because I'm in that caregiving position. And when her son was off in school, she did do some volunteer work just to, make herself feel more contributing to, I guess, society. But because it was all volunteer work, she wasn't earning an income, which was also a subject that we got onto, is how she felt about that. And again, because of the fact she's an academic and not being paid for her services, I could see that was also a little something that was disturbing to her. Okay, listening to our inner voice, that could be taken on a number of ways, because listening to your inner voice can be something that you do on a daily basis. So we talked about how she could listen to her own inner voice, especially when it came to her ear organ, like quieting her mind and, opening up to the possibilities of what she needs to hear from spirit, right? And do we allow the words of others to disrupt our own balance? And this could go back to some of her childhood issues, because obviously, do we allow the words of others to disrupt our own balance? Because we tend to start believing those who are older than us. And as a child, this is one of the unfortunate things, because parents aren't taught to be parents. And, not only parents, but we have teachers that are a variety of types of teachers that often are in our life when we're young. If we have somebody else who's taking care of us, then those people could be big influencing factors. Siblings are also huge in influencing us. Friends, neighbors, all these types of people in our life are people that are going to be influences as we're young. But often when we're young, sometimes there can be repeating things that are being said, and possibly in her case, things like, and I had mentioned that to her, and she affirmed it, where I said, that sometimes parents will say to their children, you're too young, don't worry about it. Right? Don't worry about it. Everything's okay. We're taking care of everything. No matter what's going on, the child then starts to block out that they need to contribute, because everything is going to be okay, because everybody is going to take care of you. So again, I'm just sort of expanding on some of the possibilities. Okay, what other things that I talked about with her? Selective hearing as well, because this is something that I've learned over time, that often people will have selective hearing based on some of their programming. And selective hearing is, just blocking out things that people don't want to hear based on things that they've heard in the past. So what can I use as an example? well, I had one guy that basically told me that, he couldn't live up to his father's expectations. So his father was always belittling him. So whenever he heard somebody that was condescending, he would just block them out. He had selective hearing. And with this gentleman, his ear organ was flatlining. So as you can imagine, when the ear is gray, that's totally the absence, disconnecting from what others hear. Now you can go through life and on an intuitive level guess what people are sensing or trying to tell you, but we need to understand everybody has the right to express, which also means that we need to listen to everybody's right to express. Just as when we have our right to express, then we should expect other people to listen to us as well. Does that make sense? Thumbs up? Okay, great. Now, because of the fact I was seeing that indigo color in the ear and also the indigo in the forehead, this was a conversation that we had, that when it came to planning her future, she didn't always want to hear what could be being said. Okay, or she wasn't listening to her own inner voice. Again, we can stretch that into different ways that she might be hearing information. Now, the forehead is about our ability to plan. But if somebody is in that state of worry, fear, or doubt, it's pretty hard to plan the future. So when we talked about the fact that she wanted to, start making a career out of everything that she's learned in her past, she wasn't writing anything down. Everything was just in her imagination. So I'm an advocate of asking people to write things down so they start creating that plan. They start putting things down that they're thinking about, because once you write it, you're creating action. And once you release it to the world where you've written it down, then it becomes so. Versus if it's just in your mind and it's going around and around and around, then you can see how that's problematic. And things that we need to start looking at is some of those patterns. Now we can also see that the ureter is in the similar color and the urethra. So again, this could be indicating, on an emotional level, this is where she has some fear and anxiety. Now, this person was a very sensitive person. And if we look at a lot of the colors above her head, the green is a sensing energy, the indigo is a sensing energy, the pink is also a sensing energy. So she is displaying, and there is this orange color that we also saw more closely with the color nanometer, that we can see that there is a lot of sensing energies that she displays in her brain. And although she has the yellow, which could be her academic connection, we can still see that her emotional energies are a little bit stronger. Okay? And when we look at the feet, we can see her feet aren't moving forward. Now, I didn't do a comprehensive aura reading, and in fact, I didn't really talk much about her aura. More, I focused on her chakras, because again, the chakras were right away telling me that her brow was heightened, and we can also see that her heart chakra was also strong, and her sexual chakra is also strong. Those are three strong emotional energies, or her three strongest energies were all her emotional energies, which is again validating the fact that she is a sensing person. So sometimes I will look for the information that will help me gather information to support the consultation. Okay? So what we started working towards is, her addressing these questions that were asked so she could put together a protocol of, or not a protocol, but put together some understanding of, the things that she feels pertains to the ear organ that could be hindering her progress for having what we might call normal hearing, or at least a normal hearing range. But that ringing, again, is indicating to me that she could be hearing things on higher dimensions that most people don't hear. That's sort of what my belief is, that tinnitus is, that it is actually frequencies that most people won't hear. Sort of like a clairvoyant. A clairvoyant can see the colors of the aura. A clairaudient can hear a lot. Okay, and the messages of hearing that a clairaudient will hear could be anything from all these higher frequencies to also hearing voices that are on other dimensions, and that's a whole other conversation. But the brow chakra is connected to 5 out of our 6 sensory organs, and so therefore this is one of the reasons why this area is very psychic. And we have, you know, not only the clairaudient, the clairsentient, and all kinds of, you know, sensory perception that comes out of the brow chakra. And people who are very high in the brow chakra often will hear voices, and they could be misdiagnosed as schizophrenic. And I say misdiagnosed because, again, you know, people with multiple personalities, you know, or people who are schizophrenic, these diagnoses are based on the fact that people are hearing a lot of, you know, voices that are coming in from different dimensions that somebody who is very tuned in or has a very strong brow chakra, then they would be the ones that would have these issues. Does that make sense? Okay. I could tell you the first schizophrenic that I saw above the head, a solid indigo, and it was a very, very deep indigo. And she was a young woman, and I said, "Are you hearing voices?" And again, I work very much intuitively, and she said, "Yes, I have been diagnosed as schizophrenic." And I asked her, "Are you familiar with the chakra system?" And she said, no, she wasn't. And then so we got into a discussion about her energy centers and how, you know, again, the brow chakra governs her abilities to hear things from multiple dimensions. And again, can you imagine if somebody is tuned into that vibration and nobody explains that to them? That could, you know, really screw with a person's mind. Okay. And then what I did was I prescribed things that this person could do to help support the ear. And so because I work with a lot of natural healing modalities, of course, that's one of the things that right away I go to. And I brought some of our indigo tools out so you guys can see how I do different prescriptions. So the first product that I had recommended for her was Color Energy's Indigo Blend. And the reason why I recommended this, it contains myrrh oil, but myrrh can be a pricier oil, but as a blend, it is, you know, cut and diluted. But frankincense and myrrh are two of the best spiritual oils, but also really good for healing ear and nose problems. So often when people have problems with tinnitus, I'm simply recommending that they take the myrrh blend or the brow chakra blend that contains the myrrh oil, let several drops drop into their finger, and then take the oil and massage it on the outside of the ear and around the ear. And if somebody has a nose problem, I'm recommending the same thing, but taking the oil and putting it here where all the sinuses are to the ear, because a lot of times when people have a blockage in the nose, it is inflammation or a virus that is coming down the sinuses here right into the nose, or from the ears into the nose. Okay, so she went and she picked up a bottle at a local store, so that way she could get on that right away. Also, I recommended to her shepherd's purse tea, which you can make into a tincture and she can drop it right into her ear. But because I'm not a herbalist, I recommended when she went to the herbal apothecary that she would get the instruction from the master herbalist there. Now, because she was on track to, you know, start connecting to her soul purpose, and as I mentioned earlier, her soul purpose was to take her skills of you know, education and to go into the field of empowering young girls. That was her soul calling. Now, when people are not connected to the vision or need to refine that connection, such as this woman did, often I will recommend products such as our Guardian Angel or our Mood Blend Soul Purpose. And the last video that we spoke about, or if you haven't seen the last video called Color Your Mood, I talk about all the different essential oil blends. This one is Soul Purpose. So the intention of the Soul Purpose is to help you connect to your soul purpose. Likewise, the Guardian Angel supports you on your path, and both of them I recommend that you use at night. and this is the guardian angel roll-on, and then this is the soul purpose roll-on. So what I get clients doing is before they go to bed at night is to roll the guardian angel or soul purpose essence at the nape of their neck. And the reason why we do that is the nape of the neck, the cerebellum, is your connection to your soul purpose. It is your old brain. Also, I believe it's connected to your Akashic records. So there's information stored in the Akashic records from our past lives that indicate our connection to our soul purpose. Okay? And guardian angel comes in a variety of modalities. We have it here as spray form, and then we have the roll-on essence, the mother essence. We've also put the indigo essence into the spiritual spray, and then we do have the indigo essence. Now, the indigo essence is designed to raise your vibration to help release any blockages that might be hindering you in the brow chakra. Okay, and this is the purpose of our various tools, is to raise your vibration, because if there's a block in an organ, we have to raise the vibration in that organ that we can address any of the psychological aspects of that organ that could be hindering our process. And I could tell you, when I first started working with the Chakra Light essences, this was truly amazing to me, because my throat chakra was my weakest center. And constantly my throat was around 23 to 25%. And when I started using the blue bottle, not the indigo, the blue bottle, I would simply roll it on my throat chakra, and right away I would see on the Biopulsar, my throat chakra would jump, and it would jump by 20, 25, 30%. That was huge, to all of a sudden go from 23% to 50, 55%, but it would never hold. The next day it would drop down, and then I would roll the blue essence on again, and then I would see my numbers jump up, and then by the end of the day or the next day my throat chakra would jump down. And it did that for 2 months, and then finally it started shifting. Because again, what I always repeat is, when you've had a physical problem or an energetic problem, for every year that you've had that problem, it can take 1 month to reverse. So if I had that throat chakra blockage ever since I was a kid, and then I started working on the vibration to shift the vibration, I could understand why it took a couple months before I saw it shift. And even with this client, she said, am I going to see immediate results? And I said, well, I'd like to say that you will. However, you have to understand, if you've had this blockage ever since you were a kid, and now she's at the age 54, that's 50 years of information or patterning or a habit that has been developed that has to be broken. We cannot assume that within a day or two these things are going to break. However, what I wanted to alert her to is any epiphanies that can come up, any changes that she noted, like better sleep, less negative attitude, less worry, less doubt. So I'm always asking people to look at the things that are going on in their life today and to monitor any improvements. And it could be anything from bowel movements to, a heartier appetite or less appetite. All these things can be a factor of, shifting energy. So with myself, it took me 7 months to get my throat chakra to stick into the normal range. But had I not had the Biopulsar, I wouldn't have been literally obsessed about changing my energy, because I would have had nothing to track it to tell me whether or not what I was doing was working or not. And this is why it's really important to have the client come back and do a session. Now, another product that I want to mention to you is we do have a Karma Light Alchemy product, and in the purple hue, this one is called Transmute. So it's helped you to transmute your energy, and transmutation could be actually shifting from one frequency into another. So, again, if she's on the negative side of her indigo, it can help her shift to the positive. So all these indigo tools can help. And also, I teach people how to do candle therapy, where they meditate into the candle, they gaze into the candle, breathe in the aroma that's, of the scented candle. And, for example, with the brow chakra candle, it's patchouli and frankincense. And patchouli is one of my favorite oils. It really, really is a beautiful one to help get you into that state of I don't want to say imagination, but into a state of deep meditation so you can access information, because a lot of times information that is repressed or hidden from us, we need to go into a semi sort of altered state to retrieve the information that we've had stored for so long in a past memory or in our cerebellum. And just for fun, I brought up the soaps as well, so you can see that there's a whole bunch of indigo tools that we can recommend to the client. And because she was having disturbances with EMFs, then of course I recommended the aura cleanser, because the aura cleanser is intended to remove EMFs. And for anybody who's a practitioner, just so you know, we sell the Mother Essence, where for shipping purposes, especially for those of you who are overseas, like Brian and Beverly, who have joined us here today, you can buy the Mother Essence and literally you're paying a fraction of the price. And when you get it, all you have to do is mix it with pure water, and then you can actually make your own energy spray for dispelling all the negativity, all the lower frequencies from EMF toxicity. Okay? Now, another thing I recommended to my client was ear candling. And this is something I even do myself, is ear candling. And I'm not going to teach you how to do it, because that is a course that you should take if you're going to do that. And at the clinic, there is practitioners that do ear candling, and we sell ear candles there. But the point of that is, if there is anything that's blocking her hearing on a physical level, it will just gently bring it out to the surface so it can be cleaned. Okay, so her recommendations were to answer the questions that were pertaining to the ear, to document any epiphanies that she had over time, and then also massaging the indigo blend on her ears, and as well using the aura cleanser and other indigo tools. I let her choose what she wanted to do. So she told me she had gone to the clinic, and she told me what products that she bought for giving her own support. Okay. And then yesterday, I actually said to her, I want you to check in with me in 1 week. So we connected last week, yeah, it was, I think, on last Thursday or Friday. And she said she was having a lot of epiphanies and things that she had forgotten about and had repressed for a long time. And then yesterday we also had a half-hour consultation over the phone. And again, she continued to have more epiphanies. And yesterday she started talking about the resentment that she was feeling. Even though she had mentioned that before, she really felt the resentment come up. So one of the things that I said to her is always pay attention to your feelings. And the way I look at any feeling on a negative level is look at what the opposite is. So what is the opposite of resentment? Okay, any thoughts? Okay, I'm looking up in my thesaurus, and it is contentment and happiness. Okay, so often what I'll tell somebody is I want you to look up the word in the dictionary, and I want you to look at what the antonym is. Because by understanding what the opposite is, then whenever she has that feeling of resentment, to start thinking about something positive that would make her happy. Okay, and we did talk about contentment, and so again, having having her write a list of the things that would help fulfill her. Okay. Now, another thing that came out of our session yesterday was that she was having difficulties breathing. And a couple of years ago, she was diagnosed with walking pneumonia, meaning she had pneumonia, wasn't really aware of it, and was walking around with it. And when I looked at her lungs and her heart, I didn't see anything really notable as a pattern per se. But of course, because she addressed that, I went back to my notes as to what was going on in the lungs and the heart. And I can see her lungs were in one session 4.08, which was our last session. And prior to that, she actually had an overactivity. Likewise with the heart, the last time and the time before that were overactive, but the time before that it was a little bit hyperactive, but not too hyperactive. And one of the things I said to her, because I can understand she's a high indigo, and when people are a high indigo, we have to understand that they are full of imagination. So being full of imagination, that would indicate to me that she could become OCD obsessive about something. So I didn't want to, let her know that I saw anything, because she was already building up a story. She phoned her doctor, she was going to an acupuncturist, and of course she's texting me going, I want you to look at my, lungs and my heart from the last reading. And because I saw a little bit of fluctuation, what I said to her is, I didn't see anything out of the norm. Because when an organ goes to hyperactivity, it means that it's working a little bit harder to self-repair. But that could be anything. That could be, maybe she walked into a room that was very stuffy, to, maybe she was walking on the street, a busy street, and there was a lot of pollution. Then that would indicate that maybe her lungs were working a little bit harder because there was more toxicity that was incoming because of the pollution that she had surrounded herself with. Okay, so again, I wanted to assure her that I didn't see anything out of the norm. Then I also told her, and this is something that's very important, there are natural biorhythms. And for any of you who have ever, I remember back in the day they used to have that in the paper. I don't know if they still do, but they would have your emotional, mental, physical, and I think it was also spiritual biorhythms, where what they would do is they would map out, okay, today, your biorhythm is really high emotionally, and also today your physicality is very high. However, intellectually, your biorhythm is very low. So there is these natural biorhythms to our energy on a regular basis, and there's so many things that influence our biorhythms. For example, planetary alignment. We don't think about it, but when planets are aligned a certain way, it actually creates the ebbs and flows of our oceans, our tides. Okay, so we can understand that our water element can also be higher or lower based on planetary alignment. There's so many indicating factors to our energy. Plus, we have to look at environment. We have to look at our natural personality. We have to look at our life experiences. The things we've done in the last 24 hours will have a huge impact on us today. And that goes for whatever you ate yesterday is part of the fuel for your day today. How you slept in the last night is also fuel for your day today. And if your sleeping, for example, is disturbed continuously, imagine what you're going to be like on a daily basis. And that means you can be functional. However, I can also tell you, in my office, I see people leaving open the staff fridge. I have even caught the water running in the bathroom, the water running in the kitchen in our office. It's because when people are in that energy of tiredness, then what happens is they're not cognitive. They're not fully aware. And so they will do things. And I'm sure we've all done that, where we've done goofy things and we go, whoa, what did I do that for? We just, are totally on autopilot. This is what I'm talking about, is when you are sleep deprived, you could be autopilot, which means you're totally functioning. You'll drive from point A to point B, get to point B, you won't have a car accident, but you go, oh my goodness, I don't even remember driving here, because your indigo energy is very intuitive and it will stop at the red lights, it'll go at the green. It is all about that intuitive energy rather than your physical reality energy. And we all know that the energy that connects most to our physical reality is our root chakra. And on the Biopulsar, 80% of people, you will constantly see that their root chakra, it struggles. And sometimes it's half of where it should be, and with some people, it'll literally be non-existent. So, you know, with this client, we can see that her root chakra consistently is one of her lower chakras. As well, she struggles with her throat, yet she says she's a good communicator, but I suspect she's not always a good communicator of her emotions, and she could be a little bit in denial with that. You know, similarly, she feels she's not being heard. Well, that's part of what she's vocalizing. If she's talking and people aren't hearing her, then that can cause frustration in her throat chakra as well. So we can see how the different chakras will also build on the story. Okay? And so, you know, I just told her to continue working with the indigo because we want to resolve the tinnitus. That's what she came to me for. So I'm not going to lose my focus on that. Even though she started bringing up the lungs and the heart as another issue, I still wanted her to focus on her ears because, again, this was her complaint. And because she could be that type of person who changes her mind quite readily, because as we can see, she had 7 different frequencies in her brain. So she's all over the place. So therefore, I'm going to help keep her grounded and on track with healing the tinnitus. And at the same time, of course, because she was feeling congested in the chest, I had her, you know, doing the green energy blend, which has eucalyptus and other very medicinal oils for the respiratory system. So she could also work on healing that. But I prescribed that she used the indigo energy more at night. So this way she was ending her day with indigo because her indigo was already heightened. I don't want her to get more indigo during the day because, again, that means she would literally be walking in a trance during the day and not being 100% functional. And when people are in that indigo energy, again, that's when the worry, the fear, the doubt, and all these other, you know, possible negative emotions, or what we would call hyperactivity of that energy, would come into play. Okay. So, wow, we covered a lot, and thank you for the comments. Alana, yes, acceptance. She absolutely has to also forgive herself for some of the things that she was feeling because there was that resentment. And we did have a lot of discussion around her mother. And, you know, one of the things I tell everyone, parents aren't taught to be parents. You know, we have to understand that they're only doing what they feel is the best at the time in their life. And if they're going through challenges and struggles, then of course, what we tend to do is take it out on the people we love. And this is why we often will self-sabotage. And another discussion that we got into was actually being open and honest with her child, because she was saying that her child actually takes a lot after her. And because her husband comes from that, you know, analytical, and as she said, in my notes, he was a high achiever and wanted his own son to be a high achiever. She was feeling, you know, some resentment on that level because she felt her husband was always pushing her son, but yet her son was being very emotional. And I said, well, then you have to have these discussions with him, because if he's as intuitive as you, then he's going to be picking up on a lot of the dynamics of what's happening in the house. And as well, if you and your husband are fighting about, you know, whether he, you know, should be an academic or you know, own his emotions, then you need to have that conversation with him. Okay. Okay, guys, we're just at after 4 o'clock, so I'm going to open it up to any questions.
Hello, Miss.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a question for you.
Okay, Pauline.
Okay, you know, when you're looking at the color chart, and do you ever intuitively just, I don't know if it's just the way my brain's wired, but I find that the way my brain is, I tend to put all the colors together, and then I look at what's on that frequency, and I don't know if that's just a natural thing to do or just seems to be what I do.
Yeah. And that's beautiful, because I tell everyone the biopulsar is the factual device that will support your intuition. Now, some people look at the fact and then they go into their intuition, where some people, you know, look at it intuitively and then find the fact. Okay. And some people can do it, you know, on both levels.
Yeah.
I never know how readings are going to go. And this is why I say to everybody, you know, the whole thing is you've got to ask a lot of questions. And because you have the facts that support you on the biopulsar, you're using the biopulsar to actually just gain more, you know, more support in what you're saying to them. And also it builds the trust. Because one of the things that I found difficult for me is trusting what practitioners were saying because they didn't have the evidence to support it. And there can be a lot of contradiction with that, but I also trust people who are intuitive. Okay. But again, for me, I love the biopulsar that it supports that avenue. And I've had biopulsar owners because when I teach classes, as you know, Pauline, you come here and if you see my energy, then you might go, oh, Susanne, I'm seeing this in your aura. And I would have said, absolutely. I would have agreed with that because whatever you see, sense, and feel is going to be a projection of what I'm expressing outward. So it's that fact of what you're seeing and how you say it that makes sense to me.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Bev, I thought you had a question there as well. Okay, I'm unmuting everyone just in case you have problems finding your unmute button. So Bev, did you have a question? Okay, she's not answering. So anyone else?
Suzanne?
Yes, Brian.
Can I just ask on her counselling questions? One of the questions was her biggest vulnerability and her Achilles heel.
Yes.
And doubt. Doubt about what?
Well, you know, this is a natural tendency for a lot of indigo people is they just doubt things because again, sometimes they can live too much into what if I do this, what if I do that, what if I do this energy that they're doubting a lot of the possibilities because there's so many possibilities that they can see. So they're not sure how to move forward.
And the other thing is she mentions is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
She needs more freedom.
Because
of
yeah, she's been a stay-at-home. Yeah, she's been a stay-at-home mother for 15 years, and she felt that to some degree it confined her because she felt that she was highly educated and that she was literally wasting parts of her life away. She doesn't regret being a stay-at-home mother, but she, again, it's that double-edged sword, right? You know, sometimes you want the best of both worlds, but you've got to make a choice as to what direction you're going to go forward with. And honestly, when a parent makes a decision to be a stay-at-home parent, I commend them for that because I believe parenthood is the ultimate job. It is the most important job in one's life. However, we also put a lot of emphasis on, you know, having success through our profession. But you know what? You can do that at any time of your life. You don't have to have success, you know, at when you're young. You can have success later on in life. There's nothing wrong with that. It's how we perceive it, right? And it's our own things that we put out in front of ourselves as to what our expectations are.
And can I just ask, has she had any chiropractic treatment at all?
I don't know about chiropractic, but I know she's going to an acupuncturist, and she got a little frustrated with the acupuncturist because she didn't feel that the acupuncturist was holistic, and whenever she was addressing things with him, it was more based on, I'm going to stick you with needles, and she was uncomfortable with that, and so she made the decision she wasn't going to be going back to him anymore. And I think she also did say, I think that he initially helped a little, but she just wasn't seeing the results that she wanted. And, you know, it's one of those things when somebody has seen someone at least a dozen times, you would think that the person would feel more progress, and she just wasn't feeling that she was progressing as fast as she'd like to. I'm sure there was things that did happen, you know, but again, it's one of the unfortunate things with energy medicine is people don't realize it. And I did point that out to her that she has to be very patient, that the results might not be something she'll note today, but in 1 year from now, she'll go, holy smokes, when now I think about it now, my ears were really ringing, you know, and now the ringing will be that much less. right? Because it was the same with me. I used to have so much pain and tension in my throat chakra that I only have it when I over talk. When I talk too much, then I find it, I get stressed in this area, but I don't have the pain and suffering that I once did, because this was totally blocked. It was a dark, dirty color, and it was my weakest link.
Susan, was she open to any colour therapy that you may have been able to recommend, or you did recommend? Was she open to that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, she was doing a lot of red protocols based on our other sessions together, because again, I think that's when she wasn't feeling as empowered, and I feel that the red probably helped her with that momentum of building up her courage and deciding to, you know, start moving forward towards her career. So definitely there's been some transformation, and when I go back to when I first saw her, it was in 2018 in September, so that was a few years ago. So definitely there's been shifts towards that, and she's been very wonderful, you know, taking my advice. She is on a limited budget, so of course, you know, there's so many ways that she can make these changes, and she's gotten my color recommendations, so, you know, sky's the limit as to what she can do. And we created some affirmations for her. So this way she would affirm, I am open to hearing what people have to say to me. I allow myself the freedom of expression. It is my right to express. Okay? Because to me, remember, when the root chakra is weak, then people don't feel that they have the right to exist. Right? They don't feel they have the right to exist, which means they don't have the right to express, etc., etc. When we build up the root chakra, then there's much more momentum we can gain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to that.
Wonderful. I knew you would.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Wonderful. Okay, then we're going to sign off for the year. Blessings to everyone. Happy holidays. I hope everyone has a joyous, loving, happy holiday, even though we might be in isolation. But nonetheless, you know, please enjoy your holidays. January 7th, I've got the class already scheduled, and today I was working on all the support materials to go with that class. I'll also put together a bit more information on this client and send it out to you guys. I'll get her to fill out a few more things. She's totally open to doing anything, because obviously this is her healing journey as well. And so I know she wants to fix things, so I know she'll be open to those things. So yeah, just keep reminding me if I need to send you anything, because there's always things I can send you. But in the new year, we're going to be moving forward in a lot of new directions, and I'll have a lot of exciting news for you then.
Thank you
So,
very much.
happy holidays. Oh, actually, one more thing before I let you guys go, if you want to stay for two more minutes. 2021, when you add up the numbers 2021 equals the number 5. And in numerology, the number 5 is the color blue. And the color blue is all about holistic thought, and it's taking everything from the lower chakras to a higher vibration. And to me, the aspects of the blue energy, this is going to be the year of organizing and planning and success. There's everything that we've, you know, been building up, all the seeds that we have been sowing, and everything is now going to start coming into, you know, more fruition. And blue to me is all about, you know, expressing ourselves, telling our truths. It's a higher level of knowingness. You know, and it's such a strong connection to spirit. It's our voice of spirit. So I just want to send you guys off with just some blue words of wisdom, so you know that next year is a blue year, and we're going to have lots of fun. And blue is also connected to knowledge, but it's a higher base knowledge. And this is why I love doing what we're doing here, because this is just, you know, talking about a spiritual awakening, you know, how we can take everything from the lower energy centers and manifest them on a greater spiritual cause. Okay. So welcome to 2021 shortly, and again, happy holidays, all the best in the new year, and we'll see you guys January 7th, or we'll talk to you sooner or later. Ciao for now.